we seem to have this kind of cultural like fascination with people who go exploring, whether it's Lewis and Clark, Christopher Columbus, Neil Armstrong. We have this cultural fascination with going to the new places, exploring the new things, even if sometimes there are other people already there who are saying like, no, we've been here for a few thousand years, this isn't new. We just love those stories, and there's so much that happens on the way. There's lots of drama, strife. One, I hesitate to call it a battle, but for lack of a better term, we'll use that. There's a lot of diplomacy, a lot of decisions that have to be made of like, okay, which route are we exactly going to take?
There were times where it was just miserable. It was 40 degrees below at one point. Sand fleas on the west coast. Just an astoundingly hard expedition for them to do. They were eating candles. They were starving. They were eating spoiled meat, and they did it every day. So the perseverance that they showed in doing this, going into what was really unknown, was really pretty remarkable.
That's another cool lesson of Lewis and Clark. When looking back at the whole expedition, I'm constantly reminded that even our heroes or our history makers mess up sometimes. Lewis and Clark and all the members of the expedition made mistakes. They were ordinary, mistake-making people like us.
You have people from such different backgrounds at the start of the expedition. Educated men, non-educated men, people of very different economic statuses coming together and forming this unit that works so incredibly well together.
I think it's significant because, first of all, it opened up the West. Until that point, we didn't know what was going on. I mean, it literally opened it up. It was the key.
They documented over 150 species of plants and animals that were unknown to the West. They sent samples back to Jefferson of living animals as well as skins and pressed plants. They noted the customs of over 50 Indian tribes and what the languages were, who the people were, where they were at. Clark's map is considered one of the great maps of history. Even going across the continent, it was maybe 40 miles off of the actual overlay of a modern map. Just astounding accuracy.
For the United States, it certainly represents what we want to embody as this idea of what a true American spirit is, right? This idea of overcoming challenges and obstacles. We identify it with that motif. We identify with that idea. For me, there's a couple things that I think are really speak to the history of the expedition. One is the idea of who we could become as a nation. You've got an indigenous woman, you've got a Native American woman on the expedition in Sacagawea, you've got an African American male in York, but you've got a spread of all of what was then the United States, from individual families like the Clarks that are historically very significant. They've been in our history for a while, to people who are just making their name in their lives, perhaps like the Lewis family and so on. What Lewis and Clark represents so much and I think it's why so appealing, it's not the story of Lewis and Clark, and it gets lost in some degree in that idea because there was more than just two guys, right? This was an expedition that represented the whole of the canvas of the United States and who was a part of it, and all of them together make it a success. It wasn't just Lewis and Clark that made it a successful trip. It was the whole of the expedition.
People are amazed at what they were able to accomplish with what they had compared to what we have today.
Nobody gives them credit, but yes, they talk about their physical abilities and their height and their strength. But the biggest thing that always impressed me was these men, to the man, had to be smarter than average. They were very competent, tough individuals who lived in a very tough, difficult time, but also had a great sense of adventure. These men were really ambassadors. They were representing their president, their country, to all the indigenous people that lived in those millions of acres of land that in the vast unknown at that time.
They were recording things for the first time. We could use those descriptions and that data that they gathered to understand change over time. So think about things like climatic changes. We're living in an age of climate change. To sort of understand the lay of the land 200 years ago, this is the first place you could start to get that sense of data. or get those descriptions from this expedition. So it's the first time going through. It's a benchmark for a lot of different things, not just science like climate or anything, but also the change of cultures over time.
You talk about the story in different ways. How it's being talked about now is very different than how it was being talked about during the bicentennial, and it will be different again in 20 more years. It's a chance to talk about our shared history. So, of course, there are different feelings among Native Americans about the significance of that expedition, and the important thing is that it gives a platform for people to air their different opinions and to forge relationships in the present.
The opening of the West for indigenous peoples, this is a calamity that will destroy Native sovereignty and Native strongholds. Jefferson may or may not have fully realized what would happen. Some of his writings indicate that he did have a vision for that Native nations could not exist as sovereign states. This is one of those moments in history, Lewis and Clark, where it's like, which direction will we go? And it's not a foregone conclusion in history, it never is.
It's good now that with the interactions that we're having as two different peoples, hopefully out of this, we're both learning a lot more about each other and probably getting a better understanding of our mutual histories and figuring out, should we ever do this again? Should we ever have contact with cultures that are different than our own? Will we change, completely alter the terms of engagement? Will we do it differently than our ancestors did?
It's important to kind of connect with that Lewis and Clark history, just to understand our country, how we got to be where we are today, and to kind of appreciate that early connection.
It was an incredible piece of our history where like this collective group of people came together and they accomplished this incredible mission, something that we can't even fathom to this day.
The call of exploration, and that's absolutely there as part of this expedition, why people should care, but I love the camaraderie and the workmanship of this group all along the way.
One of the tenets of Star Trek is IDIC, infinite diversity and infinite combinations. It's one of the things that Gene Roddenberry believed, that we are stronger when we embrace what makes us different and accept what makes us different and figure out a way to add that to our perspective. We can accomplish amazing things if we just learn to work together, right? If we learn to accept what makes us different and embrace what we provide or what we bring to the story.
They're history makers, but they're also human beings. We are the next history makers, and we need to remember that.
That's the people of America right there. That's, I feel like, what we see ourselves, like doing these impossible feats, but the only way that we did it is because we worked together to make it happen. And that when challenges came up, we worked with them, we faced them, we moved forward. We didn't stop, we didn't let anything hold us back, and we accomplished the mission.
For more information or to become involved with the Lewis and Clark Trail Alliance, visit lewisandclark.org. To learn more about Shenandoah University and the Shenandoah Center for Immersive Learning, visit su.edu/skill.